Yeah, so well done for an excellent lesson,
Thank you.
both of you, well done, and great teamwork, I think, yeah, yeah, well done. So our first question really is to you, to ask you if that session went as you planned it, or do you think anything kind of changed or was different, or did you have time to do everything you'd planned? How do you think the session
I think 95%.
Probably, yeah. But
going
we
the
still
way.
have things more.
Yeah.
We still have things to come, but the time is not enough.
No, okay,
Yeah.
that's okay. Yeah.
We have 2 hot questions.
Two hot, yeah,
But we
actually.
only deliver 1.
Yeah.
But it's on the plan B.
So that last question was one of the hot questions.
No,
the spoon and
no. The spoon
the
in the inside the port outlet, you're showing that you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Instinctively.
But the why question was
the why question. No, that's including the second one is I want them to touch the battery.
Oh.
Yeah.
They will have no problem touching the battery though. They have problem touching the power outlet. So the question is why you want to touch the battery and you don't want to touch the power outlet.
Yeah.
Because that's the same electricity. Why you want to do this one? Maybe some of our students will say because the voltage is too low. That's the voltage is high because you have 220 volts. In battery you have 1.5. So the resistance inside your body is just like
But we already calculate that output only have 1 hot question. But it's okay. Yeah. We already deliver almost 90% that we want for the logic.
So which one was the hot question? Which question? Sorry, you've just said it.
To take the spoon
Yes.
to the power
Yes,
socket.
yeah.
And why?
And why?
Why you don't want or why you want to do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the battery, that's the second.
That's the second
Why you
one.
want to do it or
Yeah.
why you don't want to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Anything else?
Well, we haven't practiced with the remote, so
Yeah.
maybe we have slightly
Yeah.
problem with
Yeah.
adjusting with the remote.
Yeah.
Slightly.
That's okay, isn't it? Yeah.
And is there any? So if I said you can have a second go, like give you if I gave you different students and said you can do it again tomorrow, is there anything else you'd change or would you keep it the same?
Maybe yes, because when we ask questions, we just don't wait that long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't wait.
Because the time is,
Because the
actually we want to wait. So because we're having fun when they are talking about, actually the subject, it's not their subjects actually, electronics. They are English teachers,
Yeah.
but they are just talking about it. It's quite nice for us.
Yeah.
We're kind of rushing them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we need to deliver the
House questions.
no about the about the current and everything at first because in reality your students will already know
Yeah, because usually
from previous sessions.
previous
Yeah,
sessions actually.
And actually for example for mine we have different time session for theory and for practice. So we deliver the theory in different session and we will have a full practical session.
Actually, there's one more. It's your idea. With chargers, we want them to like go look for yourself in your chargers, electric equipments.
Because you
There's
mentioned
voltage
How many?
and currents
And the symbols as
and
well.
the symbols as
Yeah.
well. We want
Yeah,
them to do it, but it's just like skip.
Yeah.
You mentioned it.
Yeah, because you mentioned
You
it.
said if you look at
And we have written it in the whiteboard.
Yeah.
There's the
Yeah.
symbol as well. Like
Yeah.
alternating currents and direct currents.
Yeah, well done. I mean, well done. It was excellent, and I think that you've thought about, the timing and the questions and things like that. And I think what we're going to give you a few comments, some, a lot of praise and some suggestions. But I'd like you to take it in sort of is keep it in perspective, because that was an excellent lesson. Okay, so anything we say is maybe just other suggestions as well. All right, so it was very, very good, and I really liked the way you worked together, because from the very beginning it was obvious you didn't you were supporting each other, and you had quite a good understanding of when one was going to take over and when the other one was going to take over. You didn't try and speak over each other or speak at the same time. There was none of that, so it's a very nice teaching session, kind of co-teaching session.
Thank you.
Very good teamwork. Yeah. I really liked the way you set off. It was obvious that you were really well planned, and you'd spent a lot of time thinking about the details to make sure that the lesson went smoothly, because you'd sent some information on the WhatsApp group beforehand. When we came back from lunch and we came into the classroom, everything was ready. I think your seating plan was lovely, very, very clear. You set up the classroom exactly like the seating plan on the board, and everybody's names were in place, and I thought that was really nice because it's very clear, it's personalised. So I think, oh, my name is, and I should be here, I have my place in this class, and that's very, very nice, and it saves time as well. It's a really good technique for saving time in an EMI class.
And before the idea was putting not their names, but their
Code, teacher code.
teacher code.
Yeah, like national teacher
National
code.
teacher code. Like we used to have our students' code.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
that's a
is-
good
somewhere.
idea.
Which would be a really good idea for your actual students to
For
use,
your
the same as
real-
the
yeah.
Japanese professor. Yeah.
Yeah, if you use, do you have big classes? Or
No, for me, for you.
Oh,
For me, 30,
okay.
For me,
Well,
just
Oh,
yes, that's
20,
quite
20
feasible.
or 15.
15,
Yeah.
20.
It's
But
just
it's quite-
practical class.
It's quite nice though, because if you use the codes, it's not necessarily a question of anonymity anymore
No.
because your classes are small.
Yeah.
But it's quite nice little voyage of discovery for the students going, oh, I'm in that group, but I don't know who
Yeah.
those are. Let's see who the other three people are.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
you. That's quite
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. No, that was really nice. And I like the way that you'd got, your board was already ready, and it was also very clear. Because board work is another aspect of teaching. Sometimes it can be a bit messy or not clear, and yours was very, very clear, and you divided it quite clearly into 3 sections, and we knew what we had to do, and we sort of knew the main words about motivation, obstacle, result were all on the board along with the symbols, which was very nice. And I like the way you had to sort of clear up the table. You've got the instructions for the exercise there, and that's really helpful, especially in EMI where somebody might be struggling with English. That gives me a bit of extra time to just kind of, I think I understand what's going on, because we always have to kind of see it from the student's point of view, and somebody who maybe their English isn't so good.
I'm sorry. We also prepare frequently asked questions.
Yeah,
slides.
that's not frequently.
If we need it.
That's
we
very
need
Yeah,
it.
nice.
because the questions that somebody asks, it's already in the frequently asked questions.
Yeah, that's
That's
nice.
quite nice.
That's very nice. Yeah, lovely. Yes, so you kind of told us about it was undergraduate students. They were all from Indonesia. Is that
Yes.
because they really are in your
They
class?
really are. Yeah, they really are.
Yeah. I mean, there was also a variety of levels of English in the class. I mean, I think everybody would have understood that class because it was very physical. I don't think there wasn't a lot of vocabulary in there, and that's fine. It's only the first 15 minutes. You had the main words in there. I think even you had A2 learners, so their English is very low, their level of English, and I think they would have understood that. So that's really nice. And you'd also got them, the students, to prepare their phones beforehand. So you thought a lot about preparing things beforehand, and it just made me think that in EMI that's really important, because you can't just walk in and run a class that's interactive and in a foreign language. You have to do the preparation beforehand, and you definitely had. It was really lovely. And that made us feel quite confident, very kind of, oh, they're in control, they know what they're doing. You know, I get the feeling that this is going to be a nice, comfortable class where it's very well structured and we know where we're going. So that was very nice. I thought you had a lovely welcome for the students. You know, you're very nice and you feel comfortable and welcomed into the class. And you had a lovely way of, you kind of handed over and you gave a welcome and then you just handed over. And what I liked was you didn't actually have much language in there. You sort of stopped what you were saying and then you started what you were saying and you sort of took over from Tonya, but there was no extra language. And I think if you're teaching an A2 class, you don't want lots of extra words coming out of your mouth.
Waste of time also.
Yeah, waste of time. And also they don't know the difference. They don't know if you say, let me hand over now to Professor da 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 da. They don't quite understand if that's important information or not. So just cut it out and keep quiet sort of thing. And you did that very, very well. I thought it was really clear when you made that. I really liked the analogy when you sort of said, well, the voltage is the motivation and the resistance is the obstacle, and that kind of, I understand that. That's language that I understand. So I think that's, you know, words like motivation and obstacle results. So I thought that was very nice. And I like the way that you made the analogy of coming to class. You know, how did you come to class? You're motivated to come to class. I did wonder, when you mentioned the obstacle was the games on your phone, I wondered, I just sort of went through my head whether that was a good example or not, because I was thinking, but we're about to use our phones for something. But then I also thought, but for young people, that's true. That is the obstacle.
In our country, they just play the game a lot.
And
exactly.
also social
all
media.
night sometimes.
Social media.
So,
just on the phone all the time.
So then they don't.
And also work from home.
So I liked that sort of analogy and the way you said, well, the bigger the obstacle, the slower you'll be to get, more difficult it'll be to come to class, kind of thing. So then you moved on to the actual equation, and I thought it was really nice that, bless you, that Tonya actually explained what I and V and R were. And of course in your class they would probably already know, but you were doing it as a beginner lesson. And it made me think that, don't ever assume that somebody understands what those symbols are. And you never know, that in some subjects the symbols are a little bit different in different countries. So you might need to just, you very quickly, as you did, make sure that we're all understanding the same thing. Because that would be a real pity if we all went off and we didn't actually know what I and V and R were. So you did that really, really quickly, and I thought that was a good idea. I thought you gave nice instructions, like for the exercise with the sheets on the table, and I really liked that exercise. I wondered if the 30 seconds was a bit short, but then I understood, because you said you were trying to make them rush, you were trying to make them really,
By making it short.
So you made it very, very short. I don't know, Tom, what did you think there?
Well, I was kind of just thinking about the tasks in general in terms of lot and hot, and I thought that the first couple of tasks were quite lot, but I could see the power of the analogy. I mean, everyone was going to get the correct answer, but I could see the power of the analogy about when you later talked about the motivation to go and get the things because there weren't enough, so you had to be first. And if I could increase the motivation by saying, Tonya will give a laptop to whoever, so I quite like the analogy you made. I did think that the last task, the one you described as hot, was very nice, and I enjoyed. There was one thing you did that we haven't seen yet, which I quite liked, which was when you gave that final task. There's still a moment for me where I think, stop talking, they know what they have to do, stop talking, stop repeating the instruction. However, you did give them the time, And I was listening to the group that was closest to me, and they were really talking. And I thought, okay, if they were all Indonesians, they might be talking in Indonesian. But they were really talking about it. And then you could see from that final answer that one group provided that they did what we really want students to do. They started to provide some technical vocabulary in their answers. And the group that I was listening to really weren't sure. For them, it really was a hot question. And you gave them sufficient time to think about it. So the fact that you didn't move on from that task, I thought that wasn't a problem at all. But what I liked was the way you let them work. So you moved around the groups, but you let them work. If you saw they were okay, you left them alone. If you saw they needed help, so in the previous task with you were helping the group that was closest to us because they hadn't really understood what they were supposed to do. So I like the fact that you left the front of the classroom, you wandered around, you didn't always intervene, you intervened where necessary. And I thought that was a really nice example of the kind of things we've been talking about. Yeah, I
made a similar kind of observation near the beginning where I saw Adik moving around and I said, very good monitoring. You were helping where you needed to help and you sort of just listened, and that's important for kind of collecting information. Have they understood? Do they know what, do they understand what these letters mean? I like that as well.
I did think,
go on. Something to what you said about the last exercise, because it's true that we were sitting at the back and we got like the group with Normala in it, and so the first answer that came back, about will you stick the metal spoon inside the electric socket, the first answer which I thought was a really good picture in the slide, by the way, but the first answer that came back was it's dangerous. So that's not kind of enough, So it was a really good but it's good because it is dangerous. And then you kind of prompted them until they started thinking, it's not going to, they're not going to accept it's dangerous. We're going to have to go back to this electricity thing. And Normala sat there in her group and at first she said, actually we don't know. I heard her, she was saying, actually we don't know, because you asked them, why is it dangerous? And she went, actually we don't know. And then she sort of sat there, and then the others because they're a group, they sat there and then they went on going, must be to do with electricity. Oh yeah, what about voltage? What about, no. And then they asked everybody, and then they asked everyone in the group. She went on to ask everyone in the group, and they started talking about, electric current and resistance and things like that. So it was a really typical example of where group work and good prompting and guidance can really get results, and it's a hot question. They got there in the end. I mean, you got the best answer from group 2, but this group that we had near us were moving in the right direction, so that was great.
Yeah, that technique that was very similar to what we saw with Professor Mazur, where I turn on the current, they move, I turn off the current, they stop moving. Great, so current magnetic field, but he's trying to get them to understand the concepts behind why that's happening, and yours was the same. We all know it's dangerous, but why exactly? If we think as academics, why is it dangerous? So I like that as Julie says, push them on from, anybody can say because we know you shouldn't, but do you really know why we shouldn't? What is the real? And I thought that was really nice too. I really liked that. I thought maybe in the earlier one you could change that earlier exercise. So the one where you said the exercise where you introduce so on the slide we could see the mathematical symbol and we could see the unit symbol, but then you asked them to match the two, but the answer was on the slide all the time, and I thought maybe if you didn't show them the unit symbol and left that blank in the first slide and then said now do the exercise, that would have been kind of nicer, because they would have been guessing a little bit more, and perhaps if you use the ohm symbol, so, and then you could say here's the answer and you display it and they go, no need for feedback, just that's the symbol. So maybe you could tweak that one a little bit to make it more challenging for the students, because effectively the answer was on the board all of the time they were doing the exercise.
That's our first idea.
And actually what we want to say at the end is actually there's something called like instinctive knowledge. You instinctively don't want to stick that, but there's academic knowledge. It's that's kind of like you have to like calculate this. This is why it's dangerous.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah, that's
And if I may add, the reason why we are grouping them like that, is because the first is we don't want person from the same institution in one group,
Very good.
and also we don't want we want to mix all the teaching team. So no one in one group
The same teaching
came
team.
from the same
Yeah,
teaching
very
team.
clever.
Very good, yeah.
Very clever.
Good
And
point.
also each one group will have almost the same amount of content lecture and also language lecture, almost the same. And how we can implement it in our class is if we know the information from other classes, how they group their students, so we can make different.
And also in my class, we have like someone from the senior high school, someone from the senior high school or vocational senior high school. So you have like in my language SMK and SMA. A means academics, K means vocational. So sometimes I just have to mix them together because when we calculate things, that someone from senior high school is like better at that. But if we do like practical activity, the one from vocationals do it better.
That's a nice example.
And we
They're better with the hammer and screwdriver and things like
and we even think about where they sit. So the one who came from the same institution will sit very far away.
No, I think all that thought, it really showed through. Like it was really obvious to us that you thought. I mean, I didn't know the reasons behind your planning, but everything you did, you could tell that you'd planned it, that it was you'd thought through, and that kind of came through in the way that the session kind of went so smoothly. Because when a lesson goes smoothly, it's because there's been a lot of planning behind it. You know, the best teaching sessions you see are sessions like yours where, you know, it looks very smooth, but actually beforehand there's hours and hours of preparation in it, but on the day it's kind of smooth. So I think that was really nice, and it was clear that you put in that much preparation, but I didn't know the reasons behind your plan, but they're good reasons.
Yeah, and it's quite nice because you've been very interactive even here, and all of your answers and your comments are exactly demonstrating that you've obviously put a lot of thought into every little thing. So, and even, I mean, somebody asked a question and you said, you know, we'll answer on our last slide. Is it okay for you to wait?
I like that.
And that's great, you know, that, and because I think that is exactly the right answer in some circumstances. You know, sometimes students will ask a question. The clever students will kind of ask a question that's a bit too soon, and you know you're going to get there anyway. So say, just wait a minute, and it's coming, and then that's better, because that's better for the class in general. So
and it keeps it on track. It keeps your sort of your timing and your structure going. If you know you're going to answer it, but I thought the same thing. It's kind of reassuring to the student, like, oh, they haven't just ignored me, or I've asked a stupid question, but this teacher is respecting me and going to give me an answer at the end. I mean, you have to remember to give the answer, but you know what's in your lesson, so, you know, it's nice if you know it's coming up later.
And even with respect to the languages, so if you do have A2 level students, which is quite a low level, I think then it's almost compulsory for you to have group work, because they will need to speak some of their home language in order to get the concepts together. And, you know, hopefully their level will improve as we go through, and then we can kind of intervene in terms of the language. But the way you design the class to specifically have, you know, a number of group tasks where they're talking and helping each other, I think that's exactly what that context would demand. And one of the reasons we're asking you to be so specific in the context is to see, is what you actually do in your class what that context would need. And in your case, I think it's definitely what the context would need. And I'm really impressed, by the way, because I think as a student it wouldn't be immediately obvious to me who is the expert in the subjects, because, you know, you have learnt well from him, or he has taught you well, and it has looked quite seamless in terms of, because I said that I wanted the experience for the students to be seamless, not this teacher does this and this teacher does that, but it's just a lesson for me with 2 teachers, and I think you did that very, very well. That was really nice. Yeah, very convincing.
Can I just add one more really good point that I thought I really liked your animation. I thought that was really, really nice. And then you got the groups to actually be, to pretend to be the current and the voltage and the resistance and everything. And that worked really well in the sense that the people in front of us, there were 3 people in front of us, and I could actually hear them speaking, and they were saying, and I think the other groups, well, they definitely were saying as well at the same time, who will be the current, who will be the voltage, who will be the resistance? And I thought, yeah, that's really good, because here are the students kind of using the language that you want them to use and thinking, well, who's going to be pushing and who's going to be, resisting and who's going to be sitting in the middle. So it kind of encapsulated the whole idea, but the students were actually speaking the language of your subject. So it was really nice. I thought that worked really, really well. And I think there was just one comment on that I wasn't sure that the group in front of us had actually, they were talking about it a lot, but I'm not sure they'd actually had a go at pushing, had they? Or
they'd started, with the one finger, and they couldn't do it with the 2 fingers because you told them to try that, but obviously it wasn't. They weren't going anywhere.
So I think that's all my comments. But I thought it was a really good sort of very interactive, very enjoyable, and you got across the concept that you wanted to get across in the 15 minutes.
Yeah, and it's going in a really nice direction, because we've talked about gradual, and I think your class was going in a really nice direction from, the lot tasks were slowly increasing in difficulty. Then we got to the hot task. I know you had another hot task afterwards. So, and you were actually giving the students the time to discuss those things. So with a few small changes, like I thought a little bit more silence from you while they were doing a little bit more wait time, but actually I thought it was really, really nice. It was really nicely planned, and I saw so many things in that class that are things we've been saying, this is something you should think about doing, or this is I saw so much of that in that class that it was clear that you were really trying to take on board the messages from this course and incorporate it into a trial lesson, and I thought that was fantastic. So I would really encourage both of you in your respective teaching context to now try to do it with your real classes and see how you get on. I think it'll be a fascinating experience. So well done. That was a great collaboration. Well done.
Very good.
Thank you, Tom.
Very impressive.
Excellent.
We're the only one both context. Content.
Content, you're a content teacher. So she's
Yeah.
not English teachers.
Yeah.
It's like you're
Yeah.
content teachers.
But not the same as him.
No, it's not the same.
Not the same.
But mathematics,
Mathematics.
I teach
Yeah.
mathematics.
Yeah, it's nice though. It's nice though, because that's a nice example of because you obviously have to combine your knowledge in some way. But you've that's quite a nice combination between the two of you, and that was the objective. It's like it's not what you're teaching that we really want to see, it's how you teach together.
And that came over, I think, kind of just the way we were looking at it. It came over very much that you were kind of collaborating, working together, but you weren't kind of on top of each other or speaking at the same time or kind of interrupting each other or doubling up. It was just one at a time, and it followed a story, and just really
Sometimes
good.
we remind each other to do.
I
You
saw
did.
that.
You did.
I saw that, and I also
she did it.
Notice that. I didn't notice.
I saw that. That was great.
Sorry.
And not just that, not just that, but sometimes when I looked at you and the groups were doing something, if you were on this side of the classroom, you were on the other side, and that's exactly the way it should be. That's like the example I gave you with the Chinese lecturer and her teaching assistant. You never see them together in the same picture because they're distributing themselves to get maximum coverage. So I thought that was exactly the way it should be. So really, really nice. That was very impressive. Well done, guys.
Excellent.
But it's exhausting.
It is tiring.
Because
But
for
it's
me,
also fun for us.
it's fun. But it's exhausting. Right.
Yeah.
For me, I have to teach from 7 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. So we have 8 hours lesson every day.
I would really,
it's vocational.
I would really recommend that, as I said before, maybe in the next time you get new semester, new classes, choose one of those classes
And
try things with them, but don't
Yeah,
do
don't
it
do
with all the
everything.
classes because you'll just get it'd be too tiring. It takes too much effort. And as you start to get better at it, then you'll be able to incorporate into your other classes
Yeah.
because you'll be better at it, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Trial
but do it
and
gradually.
error.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And when you've got the system down, then you can start to roll it out across all of your classes.
Yeah,
But
you kind of build up a repertoire of
Mm.
things that you
One
kind
at a
of
time.
one at
Yeah.
a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For her, it's like 3 hours every lesson.
yeah, yours are
Yeah.
long.
Your three
You
hours.
also until
No,
5 hours.
8 hours for me.
8 hours.
That's one class.
That's one class.
Because there is like vocational.
Yeah.
When you say about
There's
when you say
also
about
practical.
bulldozer,
Mm.
for example, like
Mm.
salvators,
Mm.
you have to go to the dozer.
Okay.
You have to go to the bulldozer.
Okay, so they
So
see it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it just
Oh, that's
bring the
brilliant.
screwdriver and
Oh,
hammer
brilliant.
and things and
Yeah.
yeah.
I once did
That's
a,
brilliant.
I once did this exercise
Mm.
in a more vocational environment. In fact,
Vocational.
in the Netherlands, and one of the micro-teaching sessions, because we were in the university, he took us all out and taught us how to use a ploughing machine.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
vocation.
Yeah, and
That's
he talked.
vocation.
He
You
talked
have
to.
to do it.
Yeah, we had to do a safety demonstration. Then we had to practice to make sure everybody knew.
Correct.
And it was potentially dangerous.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah. But on the other hand, it's really cool because
Yeah.
it just lends itself to
Yeah.
interactivity because they have to get their hands
Naturally,
dirty. They have to
yeah.
do stuff. So yeah.
With Padi kind of classes, we have 5 hours for that. But
Wow.
for my classes, because it can be done in classroom because we are only calculating. And we only do for 3 hours 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But we often do it until 7 p.m.
Wow.
and some until 9 p.m.
Ooh.
And did you find the examples I showed you from the Chinese maths teacher applicable in any way to your context?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. So it'd be quite interesting if you experiment in that direction. It'd be interesting to hear how you get on. Let me know.
Yeah.
And especially
Because-
for long sessions in
Yeah.
the evening, actually leaving them to sort of sort out a
Yeah,
problem
I
and
think
then
so.
coming back is probably
Breaks it up a bit, doesn't it?
yeah.
Like sometimes when you're working here and I say, we're not going to have a coffee break, but you can grab yourself a tea or coffee while you work. So you think about that in your context of, I'm going to leave you alone for 15 minutes. This is your task for the 15 minutes, these problems.
Yeah.
If you want to get up and
Everybody
go to the
needs
toilet,
it,
grab
yeah.
a glass of water while you're doing it, that's
Yeah.
fine. As long as by 15 minutes this is done, So,
Yeah.
and see how that works,
Once I did a battle.
Oh, very good.
I make them groups.
Yeah.
And they can battle for. I make some kind of a Olympic something in one session.
That's
And
nice.
in the end of the day,
Mm.
one of the students, well, I'm very proud of this. One of the students, and he is the naughty one, the naughtiest one, and he said it out loud. This is the most fun class I have.
Oh, there you go.
Very
That's really good.
nice.
Yeah, that's really
that's
good.
nice. Yeah,
And that's the thing, the students generally,
they're
when
not
you,
always bad students.
no, it's
Yeah.
just they're bored sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they don't learn by just kind of listening to someone. Yeah.
I think it's an advantage that you have
Yeah.
in your classes because, if I know I'm going to get to go behind the controls of a bulldozer, I'm going to be motivation. But sometimes when we have to teach more theoretical subjects, which involve sitting down and desk work, motivation can become an issue. So, doing stuff that's a little bit different or giving them a little bit more responsibility for their own learning can be a really good way to get around that. Yeah. And you discover then that,
They're
naughty
not
or
always-
bored.
Yeah, they're not always.
But all of them eventually active,
Yeah.
actively participate.
That's what we want.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
and they can have their friends in group to ask.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I usually said to them, nobody left behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
you have to
nice.
help each other
Exactly.
because we are in one unit.
Yeah, like the army in a
Yeah.
battle.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy.
And that's nice though. That's nice because not everybody is good at maths, and if they know that they've got their friends, they've got each other.
That's
It's
really
really good. Yeah, that sounds lovely.
Yeah, well done, guys. That was a
Yeah.
brilliant
Thank you.
performance.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you've done really
You
well.
chose partners well.
Cheers.
Yeah, well done.